Plymouth could be colder than Aberdeen this Friday. Yes, you heard that correctly. The southwest of England, typically our milder corner, facing temperatures that could drop below what we were expecting across the Scottish Highlands. Is your area about to experience one of the most unusual weather patterns we've seen this winter? Right now, across the UK, we have yellow warnings for ice affecting large portions of England and Wales, with Northern Ireland also under an ice warning into this morning. Over 100 counties and council areas are impacted, affecting millions of people as they head out for their morning commute. But within the next 12 minutes, I am going to tell you exactly when conditions improve for your specific location, when the next batch of rain arrives, and crucially, whether we are finally going to see that cold spell that the models have been hinting at for weeks. Drop your location in the comments right now, your city or your county, and I'll get back to you tomorrow with a personalized forecast for your exact area. I genuinely read every single comment, and with the way things are developing, tomorrow update is going to be crucial. Let me give you the timings for our major cities straight away. London, you are currently sitting around 7 degrees, relatively mild compared to what coming, with showers moving through this morning before a brief drier spell this afternoon. Manchester, you are looking at 6 degrees, cloudy conditions, but the rain should hold off until this evening. Birmingham, similar story, around 6 or 7 degrees, a fair amount of cloud, some brighter breaks possible this afternoon. Glasgow and Edinburgh, you are both around 5 degrees at the moment, with persistent rain across eastern Scotland that is going to continue through much of today. Cardiff, you are at 8 degrees, relatively mild, but that about to change as we head into Thursday. Belfast, you are looking at 6 degrees with clearer skies this morning after overnight frost, but watch out for those icy patches, especially on untreated roads. Now, Storm Chandra has finally moved through, but it's left us in a rather unusual position. We've got this battleground set up across the UK, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment, because it's this battleground that causing all the uncertainty in the forecast. The current situation is this. We restuck between mild Atlantic air, trying to push in from the west, and bitterly cold Arctic air sitting just to our east. And when I say bitterly cold, I mean minus 20 degrees in parts of Norway. We are tantalizingly close to that air mass, just a weather front away, but we can quite tap into it. That's been the frustrating story of this winter, hasn't it? So close to proper cold, but not quite getting there. For those of you in the southwest, I need to talk about Thursday specifically. Devon, Cornwall, you've got another yellow rain warning issued for Thursday afternoon and evening. We are looking at potentially up to an inch of rain, maybe more in some spots, and with the ground absolutely saturated from Storm Chandra, flooding is a very real concern. Plymouth, Exeter, Truro, this is going to be pretty grim, I am afraid. The rain moves in around lunchtime and persists through the afternoon and evening. But here's what nobody is talking about. Whilst everyone else focused on the rain in the southwest, there is a subtle shift happening in the upper atmosphere that could change everything from next week onwards. I'll come back to that at the 8-minute mark because the implications are rather significant. Let me run through conditions across the rest of the country for today, Wednesday the 28th. Newcastle, you are looking at 5 degrees, a fair amount of cloud, breezy conditions, but generally staying dry through the day. Leeds and Sheffield, both around 6 degrees, cloudy start, some brighter spells developing this afternoon. Liverpool, you are at 7 degrees, a few showers possible this morning, but they should clear away. Bristol and Southampton, both sitting around 8 degrees, bit of a murky start, some fog on the hills, but that should lift through the morning. Brighton and Dover, you are both around 7 degrees, cloudy conditions, staying largely dry. Moving up to Scotland, Aberdeen and Inverness, you are both around 4 degrees with that persistent rain I mentioned earlier. It's not heavy rain, but it's that cold, miserable drizzle that just wants to shift. Some of this is falling as snow over the Cairngorms and the higher highlands. Nothing significant, mainly above 600 metres. Dundee and Perth, similar conditions, around 5 degrees, damp and cloudy. Across Wales, Swansea and Bangor, you are both around 7 to 8 degrees. A few showers this morning, clearer spells this afternoon. For Northern Ireland beyond Belfast, Derry is sitting at 6 degrees, clearer conditions. But again, watch for ice on those roads this morning, especially in rural areas. Now, let's talk about what's happening Thursday, because this is where it gets interesting. The Met Office model and the European model are showing slightly different solutions for Thursday afternoon and evening. The Met Office model has that rain in the southwest arriving slightly earlier, around 11 o'clock in the morning across Cornwall, whilst the European model suggests more like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That 2-hour difference matters if you've got plans, if you are traveling, if you are working outdoors. Tomorrow morning model runs should clarify this, so do check back. Thursday temperatures, London, you are looking at around 8 degrees, staying relatively mild with a southerly flow. Manchester and Birmingham both around 6 to 7 degrees. But here S where it changes. Newcastle, Leeds, York, you are all dropping to around 4 or 5 degrees as we start to tap into that slightly colder air from the east. It S not Arctic air, it S not bitterly cold, but it S chillier than what we've had, and with the wind, it S going to feel rather raw. Scotland on Thursday, Glasgow and Edinburgh, you are both around 4 degrees, and this is where we might see a few wintry showers mixed in. Nothing significant, maybe a bit of sleet over the higher ground, but it shows that cold air is trying to make inroads. Aberdeen, you could drop to 3 degrees with a definite wintry feel to those showers coming in off the North Sea. Wait until you see what S developing for Friday and into the weekend, because the models are starting to show some agreement, but there is still one crucial detail they can decide on. Friday sees temperatures dropping a touch further. London, you'll be around 6 or 7 degrees, a noticeable drop from Thursday. Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, all around 4 to 6 degrees. The further north and east you are, the colder it's going to feel. Newcastle, you could be down to 3 or 4 degrees. Edinburgh and Glasgow, both around 3 degrees, and Aberdeen, you might not get much above 2 degrees. Now, here's the one thing that S got my attention. There is increasing signal from both the Met Office model and the European model that early February, we re-talking the 4th, 5th, 6th of February, could see a significant pattern change. High pressure is trying to build to our north and northeast. If it succeeds, and that S still an if at this stage, it would cut off the Atlantic, open the door to northerly or northeasterly winds, and bring genuinely cold air flooding in. The operational runs, that is the main model run that we look at, have been showing this consistently now for about 3 days. The GFS, the American model, has been particularly keen on this scenario. The European model has been a bit more cautious, but is starting to come around. The Met Office model sits somewhere in the middle. But, and this is crucial, the ensemble members, that S, the multiple runs of the same model with slightly different starting conditions, they're not fully on board yet. Some of them are showing this cold pattern, some are keeping us in average, unsettled conditions. That tells me we are looking at around a 50-50 probability at this stage. Not certain enough to be confident, but certainly plausible enough to keep a very close eye on. For those of you in coastal areas, Dover, Scarborough, Blackpool, Great Yarmouth, if this cold pattern does materialise, you'd be looking at some significant wind chill from those northeasterly winds coming straight off the North Sea. We're not talking about -10, -15 like they've got in Norway, but we could be looking at temperatures feeling like -2 or -3 with the wind chill. Leicester, Nottingham, Cambridge, Oxford, you are all sitting in that zone where if this pattern sets up, you could see some interesting wintry weather early next week. But again, it S too early to be specific. We need to see tomorrow S model runs. We need to see if the ensembles start to agree more. Let me give you the weekend forecast, because that S within the window where we can have reasonable confidence. Saturday, London and the southeast, around 6 to 8 degrees. Showery rain moving through, nothing too dramatic. Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, all around 5 to 7 degrees, a mixture of sunshine and showers. Leeds, Newcastle, Sheffield, 4 to 6 degrees, feeling chilly in that northeasterly breeze that S trying to establish itself. Scotland on Saturday, Edinburgh and Glasgow, both around 4 degrees, Aberdeen down to 2 or 3 degrees. We could see some snow showers mixing in, mainly over higher ground, but possibly down to lower levels across the northeast. Inverness, you are looking at 3 degrees, definitely a wintry feel up there. Sunday looks similar, perhaps fractionally colder. That is the first day of February, and it's right at that point where the models start to diverge significantly. Some runs keep us in these average showery conditions, other runs start to build that high pressure and bring the cold air in. By Monday evening, we should have a much clearer picture. Now, I mentioned earlier there is something happening in the stratosphere. For those of you who've been following the forecast closely, you'll know there has been talk for the past couple of weeks about a potential sudden stratospheric warming event. Let me explain what this is and why it matters. The stratosphere sits above the troposphere, which is where our weather happens. In winter, we get what S called the polar vortex, a circulation of very cold air spinning around the Arctic in the stratosphere. When this vortex is strong and stable, it tends to keep cold air locked away in the Arctic. But when it weakens or splits, that cold air can spill out and head towards lower latitudes towards us. The latest data is showing that warming is taking place in the stratosphere around the polar vortex. We're re-seeing warming over Siberia and warming over the Atlantic and Western Europe in the stratosphere. These warmings are putting pressure on the polar vortex, causing it to stretch. The GFS ensembles are currently showing about a 19% probability of a major sudden stratospheric warming event. That down from about 25% a few days ago, so there has been some backing away, but it's not off the table. The models are flipping around a bit, which shows there is still a lot of uncertainty. If this stratospheric warming does occur, and current indications suggest it might happen around the 8th to 10th of February if it happens at all, the lag time before we see impacts at the surface is typically 10 days to 2 weeks. So we'd be looking at mid to late February for any cold spell resulting from it. Here's what concerns me most about the current setup. We're so close to that cold air, it's right there, just to our east. We've had the battleground scenario for weeks now, mild air to the west, cold air to the east, and we are stuck in the middle with cold rain, miserable conditions, temperatures just about average but feeling colder because of the wind and rain. But there are signs, tentative signs, that this battleground might shift in our favor early next week. The question is whether it shifts enough and whether it lasts long enough to give us anything significant. For those of you who left comments on recent videos expressing frustration about cold spells that never materialize, I completely understand. We've been here before this winter. The models have shown cold patterns that haven't come off, and I'm not going to sit here and promise you it's definitely going to happen this time because I don't know. Nobody knows with certainty this far out. What I can tell you is that the signal is there in the operational runs. The pattern is trying to change. Whether it succeeds or whether we see another last-minute flip back to mild Atlantic air, that tomorrow S and Friday S model runs will start to clarify. Reading through your comments from earlier videos, I can see many of you are tired of the rain, the wind, the flooding. Devon and Cornwall particularly have been battered this month. Somerset, parts of Wales, you've had far too much rain. The ground can take much more, and yet we've got another rain warning for the southwest tomorrow. I know this isn't ideal. I know many of you are hoping for something different from this winter. If I'm honest, this pattern of being so close to cold but not quite getting there with all the rain and gloom instead, this is probably my most frustrating winter weather pattern as well. I'd much rather have it properly cold with some snow than this halfway house we've been stuck in, but let's see what the next few days bring. There is still a reasonable chance, that early February turns things around. And if the stratospheric warming does develop, then the second half of February could be interesting. Exeter, Penzance, Newquay, for tomorrow, Thursday, please do take that rain warning seriously. We've already seen flooding from Storm Chandra. Another inch of rain on already saturated ground is going to cause problems. If you are in a flood-prone area, make sure you've got sandbags ready. Make sure you know your evacuation route if you need it. Isle of Wight, you are also in the zone for that heavier rain tomorrow afternoon. Portsmouth, Southampton, Bournemouth, you will catch the edge of it. Channel Islands, Jersey and Guernsey, you are looking at some heavy rain tomorrow evening. Moving back up north, Carlisle, you are at around 5 degrees through the weekend. A mixture of sunshine and showers. Preston and Lancaster, similar conditions, 4 to 6 degrees. York, you could see some sleet mixing in with the showers on Sunday as that cold air makes more of an attempt to push in. Across the Midlands, Derby, Coventry, Northampton, you're all looking at around 4 to 7 degrees through the weekend. Not particularly warm, but not exceptionally cold either. Just that average unsettled pattern that we've been stuck in. East Anglia, Norwich, Ipswich, Cambridge, you're all around 5 to 7 degrees, and you'll be in that zone where if we do get that northeasterly flow establishing itself early next week, you could see temperatures drop quite sharply. But again, we need to see how the models develop. Kent, specifically Dover, Folkestone, Canterbury, you are looking at 6 to 8 degrees through the weekend, but you are right on that front line if the cold air does push in from the continent. You could go from 8 degrees on Sunday to potentially 3 or 4 degrees by Tuesday if the colder scenario plays out. Now, I need to be clear about something. When I talk about these colder scenarios, these potential cold spells, I'm not doing it to ramp up false hopes. I am presenting what the models are showing, acknowledging the uncertainty, and trying to give you the most honest assessment I can. Some runs show it, some don't. That's the reality of forecasting this far out. The models will become clearer over the next 48 to 72 hours. By Friday evening, we should have a much better idea of whether that high pressure is going to build strongly enough to bring the cold air in, or whether it's going to be another case of close but not quite. If you haven't already, do drop your location in the comments. I'll be doing a more detailed regional breakdown tomorrow based on the latest model runs, and I want to make sure I am covering the areas you are interested in. Whether you are in Orkney or the Scilly Isles, Londonderry or Landers End, I'll try to get to as many locations as possible. One final point about the stratospheric situation. The fact that the models are flipping around a bit on this isn't necessarily a bad sign. It shows the atmosphere is in a state where these sudden changes can occur. We are in that window where it's possible. It's not locked in, but it's possible. And that more than we could say a month ago when the polar vortex was rock solid. To recap then, we've got another unsettled day today across much of the UK. That rain warning for the southwest tomorrow is the main concern in the short term. Into the weekend, temperatures dropping a touch, feeling chilly in that northeasterly breeze that is trying to establish itself. And then early next week, potentially, and I stress potentially, a more significant pattern change that could bring colder conditions. The stratospheric warming scenario adds another layer of possibility for the second half of February, but that is very much in the realm of low confidence at this stage. What I can say with more confidence is that the current unsettled rainy pattern will continue for at least the next few days. I know forecast uncertainty can be frustrating. We all want to know exactly what is going to happen so we can plan accordingly. But the honest truth is, at 7 to 10 days out, especially in a pattern like this where we rewrite on the boundary between two different air masses, there's always going to be uncertainty. That is not me hedging my bets. That's just the reality of atmospheric physics. Tomorrow's video will focus specifically on that early February period. I'll have the latest model runs. I'll be able to show you more clearly whether the ensembles are coming on board with the colder scenario or backing away from it, and I'll have more specific regional details for you. The timing for tomorrow's video will be around 10 o'clock in the morning, so you'll have the forecast in time for planning your day. And with the way things are developing, it really is worth checking back because we could see some significant shifts in the forecast. Before I finish, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for engaging with these forecasts. And thank you for your patience with what has been, let's face it, a pretty frustrating winter so far for many of you. Whether the cold arrives or whether we stay in this unsettled pattern, I'll keep giving you the most honest and detailed forecast I can. Drop those locations in the comments, and I'll see you tomorrow morning with the latest update. Stay safe out there, especially if you're in those areas under warnings, and let's see what the